let's talk story. We're going to talk about the power of story, but I'm going to tell you the tale that's the greatest tale ever told. I'm going to talk about the story of story. And it goes a little something like this. Imagine a world. All right, now imagine I actually used that voice for this whole talk. I don't think so. All right, let me start over. Imagine a world floating in infinite space. A pale blue dot located on the lonely western edge of a spiral of stars so numerous that it makes the dark night sky look milky with their collective shine. A galaxy that has it's come into existence maybe 14 billion years ago. Then about 8 billion years ago was created, formed out of energies known and unknown. A chaotic collective of rocks, planets, gaseous spheres, all obediently following a giant glowing orb that we call the sun. Then about 2.5 billion years ago, still a mind-boggling number, too vast for us to really wrap our minds around, life emerged on this blue-green gem floating in the inky blackness. And when life happened, when it took purchase, man, it took off. In about the 2.5 billion years that we've had life on this planet, there have been something like 100 million species. 100 million variations of life that are vying for this rarefied air. 100 million species that are swimming in the cool currents of seas known and unknown, feeling the rain fall from the sky. Now, right now, we think that there's about 10 million species on this planet. 10 million species is a mind-boggling display of biodiversity. But what it also means is that 90% of all life that's ever lived on this planet has gone extinct. Of 100 million species over 2.5 billion years, there's only one. There's only one species that has been able to take an experience, transmute that experience into some kind of knowledge, and then that knowledge over time becomes wisdom, and that wisdom begets culture. Now, sure, there are whale songs and there are bird songs and there's plenty of hoots and hollers coming out of the darkness. But really, there's only one species that knows the magic trick to life. There's only one species that tells stories, and that's us. And I would say that it is our great differentiator. It's our great gift. More than the large brain to body weight ratio, more than our massive prefrontal cortex, more than even these things are opposable thumbs. The greatest tool that we have is that we are storytellers. Now, I wonder what story you're here to tell. How do you tell a better story? My company, Lytro, we've leveraged over 450 of the world's greatest creatives and storytellers to help companies that are the most beloved companies and most beloved brands tell their best stories. That we have found that the ability to tell a great story is directly related to a business's success. Especially with the founder's story. What's the founder's story? What's the patient journey story? How do you tell that best story? What's the brand story? When you can tell a powerful story, that story will align all of your stakeholders. It'll align all of your employees. It will align your customers as part of your marketing department. That they will go out and repeat that story. We've found that word of mouth is the most powerful sales tool that there is still to this day. And so those people become the storytellers that help extol your virtues in the world. Believe it or not, stories matter. Stories might even, I would argue, make matter. That the most powerful way to engender belief in the world is to tell a great story. Now, believing is how we make something real. It's how we turn a thought into a thing. And if you don't believe me, let's do a little thought exercise. Imagine you find yourself in a situation. I don't know where we got the model for this drawing, but all right, so you find yourself in a situation. Let's just say the situation is you're being chased by a ravenous bear. This is a story that comes from the philosopher Stephen West. So you're being chased by this ravenous bear. Now, chances are you probably can't outrun the bear, right? Now, ahead of you, there's a chasm. If you can leap over this chasm, then you can escape the bear. Now, if you believe it's possible, then you will make the leap. If you don't believe it's possible, you won't even try. So if you don't try, well, that might be a bad day for you, right? Of course, it wouldn't be a terrible day for the bear, but it'd be a bad day for you, right? Now, if you do make the leap, if you have belief, and that belief is even slightly present for you, and you take that jump, and the successful outcome happens after that jump, it was only possible because belief was present. And so it is believing that makes something real. It's believing that made it possible. Every made thing in this room, every made thing in your life is there because somebody believed that it was possible and somebody told a story about it. So what do you believe is possible? What stories are you telling? How well are you telling those stories about the things that you're creating, about how you're turning your thoughts into things? You know, I used to think, well, seeing is believing. And I was, such a pithy statement that I could hold on to that. But really, maybe the truth is, and now that I know the power of story, maybe the truth really is believing is seeing. Now, stories evolve, and even that story is an evolution of the seeing is believing to believing is seeing. Stories evolve, and they reflect the consciousness of our time. All stories and all art is really a reflection of the consciousness of our time. And what's really exciting to me is that this evolution is happening right now. Like, we're in it in real time right now. You can feel stories evolving. Joanna Macey, the philosopher, talks about this idea of a great turning. She says that you can see it throughout history, great turnings where there's an evolution in the consciousness and how it's expressed to the world. And she says that you recognize a great turning by 3 elements. The first element, I'm going to go back here. The first element is what she calls the Great Unravelling. Now, we've had a great unraveling. Like, we've got, sort of worldwide political upheaval. There's a war going on. There's one other thing. I can't remember. What is it? A pandemic, right? So we've had an unraveling. She says the second piece of a great turning is this vehement desire to return to the status quo, to re-ravel all of that unraveling, to go back when things were better, to bring that stuff back again. But we know you can't stop the wheel from turning, and that leads us to that third element of a great turning, and that is the emergence of a new story. And so the evolution that I'm feeling is this evolution from this hero's journey that we've all been on to what's next. And the new story, that new story is this idea that the hero's journey that we've had in our zeitgeist for more than 50 years, starting with the Lone Ranger and then Superman and then Batman, all these singular heroes that we've had. The ideas that Joseph Campbell really so beautifully consolidated in his treatise on the hero's journey, and that was really perfectly delivered with George Lucas's Star Wars. But you want to know that inside of each one of those heroes' journeys, inside of each one of those stories are seeds for its own evolution. And so you can see that when we've expanded those universes, when those stories have continued, we see that there are other heroes. And those other heroes have brought a constellation of other heroes around them. And that it's no longer a singular journey for a hero. That it's what Barbara Marx Hubbard called points of coherence, around which these constellation of heroes collaborate and collect. Joanna Macey calls this the Kindred Quest. But this is just a story, right? All right, so I'm going to step over here, and I'm going to invite us to look at this giant mirror ball of consciousness of our time and that we're dancing under, and see if there's another thing that we can look at to reinforce this idea of the evolution of the hero's journey. And that is that in 1977, the very same year that Star Wars premiered, Ilya Prigozhin won the Nobel Prize for what he called dissipative structures. Now, dissipative structures, very simply, are organic structures, organic systems that when energy is added to the system, they stabilize. They have a steady state. When energy rises or falls, they break into what seems like chaos and then reorganize in another steady state. You're probably familiar with this more colloquially, yeah, we'll forget that one. You're probably more familiar with this in the study of cymatics. Cymatics is that where you put a sand on a plate and you vibrate the plate. And then that vibration creates a pattern, and then that pattern breaks into a kind of chaos and then reorganizes at higher states of organization, complexity, maybe even beauty. So maybe it's not chaos in between. Maybe this is the evolution of story. We've all seen this cymatics and seen it in two dimensions. But maybe what's really happening is it's not breaking into chaos. Maybe there is this hero's journey that's happening. Maybe we are those particles of sand. Maybe we are the organic matter that's adding energy to it. And that energy is going from a point of coherence to another point of coherence in our own hero's journey. And we're gathering our kin along the way. Maybe this very room is a point of coherence. You know, we've all had our hero's journey. We've all had a chance to sit at the feet of a mentor, a sage, a guru, and we've all gone out sword in hand and vanquished that demon from whose hoard we've gathered the elixir. You know, and according to that sort of hero's journey, we come back to our garden. But what we know is that we can't now come back to a garden and just have it be a singular garden. That we now have this emergent story of the Kindred Quest. That we have to have it be a collective garden. That it's no longer just us anymore. And this is my invitation to you. My invitation to you this week is to look for your kin. To look for them from this stage and from that beautiful beating heart that beats in you right now on this planet here today, that you are 1 in 100 million telling the story of our time with your beautiful works. That your fellowship is in this room and it's in this space. And they might even be sitting right next to you. So my invitation for you this week is to look for them. And here's my last provocation. My last provocation is that when we tell the story of our time, what if it went well? We are rare, alone, and privileged on what my friend Tulku Rinpoche calls this wish-fulfilling jewel of a planet. That tales of woe are easy. Post-apocalyptic stories are a dime a dozen. They're low-hanging fruit. If you want to really flex your 1 in 100 million gift, your 1 in 100 million species gift, tell the hard stories. Tell the stories of the things that you believe, that you know how to create. Tell those stories that are about our collective garden, that make this world a better place. The stories of us rising together. That's our Kindred Quest, that we rise together. And that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Thank you very much, everybody.